Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of N of Twins. Today, we're going to talk about AI, US versus Europe. Where should you start your EA startup? EA is in the game. No, I'm talking about AI, not AA. EA. Actually, EA got acquired by where's the Middle East?
Yep, the Saudi fund, whatever it's called.
Wild. All right, but today, coming back, we're going to talk about in general AI, why US is so much more advanced, and then also the theory. For example, I just want to lay out a little bit for the audience. So, for example, in 2022, in Europe, there were more than 100,000 papers published regarding AI research. As in comparison, in the US, it's 81,000. But on the other side, when you look on the financial part, you see that out of all the capital that is being deployed, which I think is like 79 billion, so almost 80 billion.
It's actually, if you think about it, not that much, because there's a few players who raised a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, but it was in 2024, okay? That was just in 2024. So it's not 2025, just in that 1 year, 79 billion. And Mark, how much percentage do you think out of the 79 billion actually just flew or just went to US companies or US
90.
80%. So think about it. Like you have more papers coming out of European countries but most of the funding goes to US companies.
Well, it's pretty logic though, because I mean, the US, look, as a European, you know that, and if you're into startups,
especially into startups.
Exactly. Europe is very, very risk averse. So that means they're not willing to take a lot of risk. Also, there's heavier regulations, especially with AI that has potentially the risk to disrupt a lot of industries.
I mean, look at just looking at our own experience, right? Raising money, especially in Spain, man, basically they were like, okay, you need to have...
We live in Spain and the S is silent.
Exactly. Pain. But no, I mean, raising money, you're just like, oh, they want so many metrics. Basically, you should be fully profitable and have a fully functional product. And that was like 5 years ago. And yeah, which is not comparable to the US, where especially nowadays in AI, you can raise fast money and especially on the idea, which I think is also like there should be a product. So like there's a mix between it, but just to give comparison, why me personally also I would rather go to the US, but yeah.
Okay, so coming back to it, so basically 80% is deployed in the US. And I'm guessing percentage-wise, Lucas, look it up, please. How much was deployed? Like, let's say, I think 20 to 30 billion was deployed to only like a handful of companies. I think there's a top tier companies that raised a shit ton of money, that such as, I don't know, I mean, OpenAI, you consider, they raised a shit ton at this point. Then you have Claude. Well, Claude, is it considered as European, or did they consider now as a US because they have a...
Claude is US.
Yeah, it is?
Yeah, Claude always been. You always say it's a Frenchie, but it's not a Frenchie.
Oh, I don't always say a Frenchie, but the name is Frenchie. Yeah. Claude. Look.
So actually, from 2024, Mark, just from OpenAI raised 6.6 billion. So that's
there you go.
8% roughly. Then Elon Musk raised 6 billion. Then we're now at 12.6. Then Anthropic, another 4. We're at 16.6. Databricks, 10. As we're at 26.6 billion. It's crazy. So
think about just these. It's just top 4 companies in total, or 5. They already have, what is that, 20%? 25%?
Actually more. So together, those top 11 AI startups raised more than 35.7 billion.
So that's half.
Close to half, yeah.
Close to half of what there's totally. That's insane if you think about it. No, it's more than half of Europe.
79 billion were deployed worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, but my point is of the US.
Yeah, okay, 20%. Okay, then yes.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Which is in general, but we don't know from the top 11 whether they're all based in US.
Well, just say the names.
Which is crazy. I mean, just looking at it,
Well, look, this is also something that people need to understand that listening to the podcast. So some of these companies, they start off European, but then due to regulations and investor pressure, they have to convert to the US. So that means they have to change the mother company to a US-based company. And then obviously that's considered also then a US company, even though it's technically might be a European one.
Yeah.
Just because of the simple reason that where there's more cash, people will go and they will have to convert, or they have to. There's a different option also. They can have still a European head, but they need to have also a U.S. entity, and you have to have a headquarters there.
This just reminds me. I saw, I think today, a reel on from Jeff Bezos, and he was talking about that. Basically, right now we are in another tech bubble, so it's an industry bubble, so the AI industry bubble, and that in theory, that's because you should differentiate between an industry bubble and a financial bubble.
Oh yes.
So it's like super interesting, and for me, that was mind blowing because he was saying basically, all right, financial bubbles are shit. So 2008, everybody just like loses money and it's complete shit show. Whereas an industry bubble.
Okay, let's explain this. Why is that? Why is the difference? Go in more detail.
No, I want to first explain the tech.
Okay, then explain that because you're just saying it's a lot of shit.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knew what happened in 2008. So like,
I don't think that
financial crisis.
People have know what happened.
Point is, basically in the 80s or 90s, there was a bubble for pharma bubble.
Pharmaceuticals.
Yes. And the problem is, so basically everybody's saying they raised a ton of money for all new vaccines, etc., which is a good thing. But the part is, in the end, it was a bubble. A lot of companies went broke. But the benefit is, even though a few people lost a lot of money, in the end, they were like a product that came out, which was like
life-changing, saved a lot
of lives. And the same is going to happen with AI. There's going to be...
Well, let's fast forward again to the .com bubble that a lot of people probably will remember. Yeah. It's like 2000s, right? Like 1999, 2000. Like you had these famously, what was it called?
Pets.com.
Pets.com raised, I don't know, hundreds of millions, I think. Yeah. And basically went broke. But you had stuff like Amazon that came out, which then brought us AWS, all these kind of things.
Well, so in general, the internet, right? The internet was pushed more and more mainstream, which makes a huge difference. Now,
everything's interconnected nowadays, so you can't even fathom what the benefits are. And then compared to now, 2008, I'm going to break it down. So 2008 was the financial crisis that started in the US. It was a subprime market crisis. So end of the day, what happens, just to make it very, very simple, people had, like, a lot of people in the US obviously had a mortgage because of houses. So then these financial institutions were like, oh, you know what? We are going to use these mortgages, and then we're going to classify them. And then the shittier ones, we're going to resell these. We're going to bundle these up, and we're going to resell them to other companies. And then we're going to make a profit out of that one. And then these ones sold them again, and they sold it to European handlers, etc. But end of the day, they were all shit because they were defaulting on a regular basis.
Also, the people that were suffering were like everyday people, right? So like so that's a problem. The big, huge population was actually affected.
Okay, but let's break it down. Let's why did it happen. So end of the day, it started to default, and since they're bundled up, and if one or two more, and then it hits, I don't think, like a percentage of defaults, the whole thing defaults, which then makes them, the other people that can't pay the mortgage, they have to get the interest rate gets higher, and then more people will default, etc. And thereby it's just like a cascading effect, which then fucking the dam breaks, and then a lot of these people suffered because there was some financial shit going on. Don't get me wrong, there were also some other things before. Some people shouldn't have gotten a mortgage, and they got a mortgage because banks got greedy, and then we're just like, you know what? I'll lend you. You know what? You make 20K, I'll lend you a fucking 400K house, and hey, upgrade here. Let's go fucking go. So this is another thing. But so end of the day, the point of this is that in a financial bubble, there's no benefit for the greater humanity. It's just a financial tool.
Just more regulation than the regulations. If you what is it, Frank Dodd Act or what?
Frank Act.
Exactly. It's just shitty. And then, all right, coming back. So I'm talking about the industry bubble of AI. So his point was, we always had from these industry bubbles more benefits for the overall society. May it be more like for diseases, so you have any cures, etc. Internet that came out, or now AI will impact every company. It will touch every company in the world. So in the future, it doesn't matter whether you are a farmer, anything, because think about it, everything will be touched, and it doesn't matter if a few companies who are right now, because right now the investors are like, I'm not sure what is a good idea, what's a shitty idea. They're just in the middle. There's so much FOMO happening, and they don't want to miss out because some of these companies will be gigantic. So their investors, especially in the US, are willing to take the risk, knowing that they will default on many of these investments where some will just like pay back, and overall this will push AI into basically every company, because like these companies want to sell to everybody, making it, of course, also a company wants to implement AI because it makes you more efficient, like more productive. People will be more productive. Like, to be honest, I see it for myself. ChatGPT and I, homeboys, like explaining maybe, so I don't have to ask questions. I don't have to Google for an answer. Going, I just like ChatGPT is like, hey, help me build this. I want to do this, which I think is also very fascinating because like I think an experience for AI experience can be so different, even though like for me or another person, just on the way that they express the ideas and goals that they want to accomplish. Because working with AI, you learn how to really like express yourself and don't talk vaguely, because you have to say, I want to exactly reach this. This is the background information. And then you can see whether you thought through your process and what you want to achieve. So I think that's
Okay.
very, very important.
Yeah, we're talking about very general. Let's get back to the topic.
All right.
So, end of the day, what Lucas went on a very, 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 very long detour. The point is that financial bubbles bad. Usually, the other bubbles, tech bubbles, they tend to have something at least. Well, what do they call product bubbles? What did you say? These bubbles, at least, they have something benefit for the rest of humanity. And in this
Industry
one,
bubbles.
industry bubbles. At least this one will also bring out a few things that are great. Also, some of these things now there are purely AI companies are considered or are being funded like with an immense amount of money. But eventually, all of the companies will be touched by AI and will have a huge benefit for also them. Obviously, if you use it right. And then comes also another thing is like this is the difference between, because we're comparing here, right, Europe versus the US. This is talking about, well, not values and morals, but kind of, as well as regulation.
Well, I mean,
There's a huge difference between the US and the EU here.
let's not go into the regulation, but it's also like from a startup point of view, right? Investment, like risk averse versus risk seekers.
Well, we already covered this, but my point is now, let's talk about regulation now. The US regulation, usually there's only a few unique ones. It's just like, hey, specific on the industry is like, hey, health has a different regulation, an act for this, an act for that. In Europe, it's broad. Everything is covered. We have an act for, well, basically a law for all the AI in general. It needs to be trustworthy AI.
Which be shit.
We talk about human rights here. So alignments, risk-based oversight. So this is not only necessarily downside for the long term. Like for example, we had regulations back in the day, which was the GDPR, and then was later on also implemented in the US partially for the HIPAA compliance, etc. So there are
HIPAA is, by the way, GDPR for health stuff related in US.
Exactly. So we are in the frontier at some points in terms of regulation. Don't get me wrong, over-regulating for this different thing. But on the other side, Europe then is obviously falling behind in the AI evolution. But there's still light in the tunnel, right?
Which I think is fascinating, right? Because if you look at the statistic, right, so many more papers are written in Europe than
Well, yeah, but this
in
is
the US.
just
But we're talking about products that came out, and literally you have European startups which probably have the headquarters still in Europe, but they need to open a US entity and makes it them in a US company, right? I wonder how many edge cases they are, because they are saying, okay, I don't want to leave Europe, but I need US capital, so I will have a US entity.
but thereby, because they have then the US entity, they fall under US regulation. And also that makes it another thing in terms of, well, let's put national security and then the US company. So that
Yeah.
means anything that has all the data in there, etc., US has access to it.
For me, that also reminds me in general for starting a company. Like we did companies in literally in Netherlands, Germany, Spain, and US. And honestly, the easiest one is the US. Like
Oh yeah, you
everything,
can do it online and in 2
everything
days it's
online.
done.
There's so many startups that just make the process of accounting anything so much easier. All the other countries, pain in the ass, especially if you don't speak any of these languages. So like that's like one of the things that I'm like why I also believe it has a huge impact, just like from a startup point of view, US makes it so much easier, as well as if you're a European founder and you raise money in US and a US entity and still live in Europe, it also makes a huge difference for taxes. text purposes. So that's also something that needs to be considered, but it's not in the conversation for today. I just like because we were thinking about it in general for our new project. But
You know what I found interesting during our research is that in terms of infrastructure and compute, I mean, I don't know if you guys follow the news, but well, at least I follow the tech news. And Meta, OpenAI, all of them, Microsoft, they basically pledged right now billions in dollars to build big mega data centers.
have you seen how much electricity they use? I think the
Yeah.
one will be used the same amount that entire New York uses or Manhattan.
It's fucking crazy. And also they also, I think Eric Schmidt, so the former, I'm not sure if he's still the CEO. Anyways, ex-CEO of Google, he was at Congress. He was also talking about it, that they need to build, I think, an insane amount of new nuclear plants. I want to lie, Lucas, how much was it? I think like 80 or something. Crazy amount of new nuclear plants just to fucking build all this infrastructure and then to power it. Because AI is run on chips, and that is built on, and well, needs a lot of electricity. Fucking Nvidia, side note, fucking crazy, shit ton of money. It's gonna be the biggest company out there. Also, but what surprised me is that actually Europe has ambitious plans for European AI gigafactories.
20 billion, right? That's how much they're pledging or something.
No, more in the US.
Yeah, no, here in Europe.
Oh, I don't know what they're pledging here, but it's super interesting. They're building gigafactories and with distributed infrastructure. So, and they obviously want to have more public stake in it, not just private companies like in the US. But that was super interesting because I thought that Europe doesn't actually do that.
Well, the EU has a plan to invest roughly 20 billion in gigafactories, which I don't think is that much.
Well, I'm confused. Is like gigafactories in the sense of building chips or fucking
supercomputer data centers?
Data centers is different than building chips.
No, of course not. They're building chips. I mean, bro, how are you gonna?
It's just basically Taiwan that builds fucking chips.
Yeah, exactly. So the US is not building chips themselves either. So it's just about.
But they want to build. They're building currently factories.
Yes, but still they don't have it yet, and also not correct.
Not building.
Yet. My point is they just like want to have supercomputers so they can run AI there. Like the supply of the chips, different story.
Which is crazy. I mean, we have a friend that she actually builds a lot of data centers right now.
You know what I just remembered? We talked about the one chip company a year ago on a podcast that was 20x more efficient
than Nvidia with the cool ass.
Yeah, do you still remember what it was called?
No, I have no idea. Look it up. Look, let's compare. While Luke is looking up, I want to compare another category. So values and social safeguards. Well, the US obviously more tolerance of aggressive scaling and less early regulation, because let's face it, more regulation is more of an old school European thing. If you're German, you know exactly what's up. There's no more regulation than in fucking Germany. Let's go. They have so many regulations, it's insane. There's a law for everything. If you can think of it, there's a law about it. Okay. Well, Europe, on the other hand, obviously is an emphasis more on human rights,
all right,
fairness, transparency, all that stuff, all that good stuff. But man, that's going to hold back innovation. That's what it is. But in the long run, we'll see what will be the better end of the stick. Which society will be better off? We'll see. Lucas, what do you got now?
So they're called Edged.
Edged.
Yeah, ETCHED. And they raised, I think, 120 million.
I think nowadays, not that much anymore.
Yes. And they bet everything on Transformers, which could be the right move. Let's see. All right. How are they right now? So financials, here we go. I know they just raised 125 million. And
well, breaking it down end of the day, the US has a lot of benefits for AI companies right now. But I'm not sure if you right now have a startup in AI in Europe, if you can get a grant for that. Because I know in the US, they don't do a lot of grants in terms of public grants, but Europe does it. It's just a pain in the ass to get them. But a friend of ours, he sent me the other day a few links of agencies the way you can just apply to it and they do it for you.
Umar?
Axel. He did it. Yeah. Gonna check it out, guys. So if you do have one here in Europe, maybe you should apply. I'll probably link it below. Actually, you know what? I'm going to check it out right now, what they were called.
Honestly, I mean, I wish there were more news because I wanted to see how they're doing, edge.com, but but I can't find. Well, I don't find any news, so maybe they're still developing or anything. Because our back then we looked at them and they said at 20x faster than Nvidia, so they're 8 times faster now than the
All right. So
than
the one,
B200s. 8 times faster.
damn,
That
that's
is sick. So in general,
that's
that is
fast.
crazy.
Fast as fuck, boy.
Think about it. If
Fast
you
as fuck, boy.
they probably use the same electricity, so you basically can build an 8 times smaller data center to have the same output, which makes a huge
Well,
difference.
Even less, because you think about it, they use 8 times less electricity, and that also means probably they're gonna produce a lot less heat, which needs less cooling, which again
Wild.
needs a lot less
So
energy.
for those people who want to look it out, so check it out, etched.com. Super interesting company. They have not released anything yet since we talked about them in December. I think not something like this last year, but yeah, I'm excited to see where this is going for sure.
Okay,
All right.
so coming back to it, so the two companies were Tierhoff Consulting and InnoScripta, by the way, that to look up for the grants. We're gonna check it out ourselves as well.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I think that was the episode. If you like it, please comment below. Let us know what you think. Where would you start your AI startup if you're based in Europe? Would you go to the US, stay there, or rather raise money there and stay in Europe? And of course, let us know. And of course, catch you next one. Peace.